So, hi everyone, and welcome to our next webinar. We've got roughly a minute or so. I'm just going to hang on. We've got a few of you online at the moment, and then we're going to go through the PowerPoint. I'm assuming everyone can see the slides at the moment. Just give me a yay or nay if you can.
Yeah, I can see it.
Excellent, fantastic. Right, I'm going to start. Okay, so we've got a couple more webinars to do this week and next week, and then I think there's going to be a little break. Obviously, people are busy and out in the sunshine again playing. Topic of the conversation is player deselection process, tryouts and cutting players. And there's only a few of you online, so I'd really like your input because these are being recorded. And again, I think it's important that we get other input so people can look back on the webinars and see some of the questions and concerns around player selection. You know, and I know I discussed this with Claire, and obviously she's got her own stories from going through this process, and as I'm sure all of us have. What I'm going to give is my view on how I've done it with the provincial teams for Alberta soccer and how it worked for me. Again, I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, and I think we've all got to find our own process, our way of doing it. So I want to go through a few of the slides first. And the first one is, what is the purpose of a tryout? I know growing up in England, it was slightly different. They do player evaluations, but not as regularly. Running teams and playing for teams in England, I would join the team that I preferred to join, the coach I liked, and I'd play for that team. And if something went wrong, then I'd go and join another team and I'd ask to come and train with them. We didn't really do a formal tryout at the beginning and start of every season. So again, it is an intriguing one for me being here. I know when I first landed 12 years ago, there were fees charged for tryouts because some players were trying out for 3 or 4 different teams, hoping to get on the highest ranked team, which is defeating the object. So the feedback we get is that the purpose of a tryout is to offer all players a fair opportunity for team selections. And when I ask this, I'm asking, who's it fair for? Is it for the players? Is it for the coaches? Or is it for the parents? Or more likely a combination of everybody, okay? If you're in a smaller community, you may not even have enough players to make that roster, but I've still seen clubs in those situations still go through the tryout process to make sure players fit into the team. And first question I've got is, the world is changing. COVID, soccer, long-term player development, multi-sport. And I want to ask you guys, either, come off mute and let me know. What age do you feel team selections, tryouts should be conducted? Has anyone got an age that they think is more preferred? Just come and chat. And there's no right or wrong answers. I've conducted these with teams of U8 many years ago in competitive soccer. Is that deemed competitive? With the change in LTPD, should it be older? Anyone got any age group they want to specify?
I don't know. We start at U9, like having a formal tryout process, and that seems to be okay. But I think a lot of that, the focus is a lot more on building fair teams, and if there's players who are really a great deal farther behind some of the others, then it's probably a better fit for them to continue playing in community, to develop a little bit more skill before they're put into a more competitive environment. It's not necessarily on building the best team possible, but kind of fitting players into the best spot possible.
So what format do the under 9s, under 10s play in Sarah, up in Sherwood Park? Would that be a competitive league for EMSA or?
Yeah, either for ESA or for EMSA. But yeah, there's the option to play community or to play competitive.
Okay. Anyone else got an age that they feel is right? Anyone else want to join the conversation, please? I'm putting this slide up. It's interesting. This is Halifax City over in Nova Scotia, and they're trying to create a different culture over there. And you can see there, operate within a culture where no program has tryouts. Deliver programs where selection will not occur until under 13. Now, Halifax is slightly different maybe to Edmonton and Calgary. I don't know the league structure, but they're looking to give everyone an opportunity. And it's interesting when we look at the skill centers that are to come, everyone should be able to participate within a skill center, regardless of ability. And then you mix and match your team. So there's no defined rosters. I imagine out in Nova Scotia, they play open rosters. I know some provinces have done that. So you can mix and match your teams to play against your opponents, which is the ideal of a skill center. And we gotta ask, what does the method of the conducting the tryout, how does that impact the players? And so a couple of more questions regarding this is, should coaches and technical directors do the tryouts? And I've seen it many a time in hockey, where they even go and get coaches from another club to come in and do the evaluation because they don't want to be seen to have a conflict of interest. And that's always been bewildering for me, because if I'm a team coach, and I know I'll speak from the provincial basis, when I'm picking my provincial team, I pick the players that I want to take into a big tournament. Now, again, there's been other staff members, even the technical director, who's suggested that maybe I shouldn't take this player. It's a suggestion, but I made the final decision. And surely that should come down to the coach to make that decision in order to pick the right players that fit that team. And it may not always be the best players. It may be the players who fit the culture that wants to be developed. Or should we use neutral coaches? The purpose of a neutral coach is maybe to appease the parents, but I'm really throwing it out there about the whole question of tryouts and the selection process. And then I'm going to talk in a moment about how I go through the deselection. When I do deselection, I never tell players I'm cutting them. Everyone speaks in that terminology and they say, why I've been cut. And I always say, no, I've got 18 places on a squad that I need to select. And I've selected 18 different ones and not you. I'm not cutting someone, because for me, that is cutting them off and saying there's no future, and there is a future. So I'm going to allude to that. Has anyone got any other pros and cons? What do you do in your clubs? Do you use your own technical staff, or do you use neutral coaches? Do you get parents or board members to come in and help with that selection process? Anyone else want to speak on that? Otherwise, I might call some of you up.
Well, John, this is John Beasley from Red Deer, and most of our teams, we don't have the luxury of having more players than spots.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we still go through what we call a tryout process, which kind of begs the reason why, when you've got 16 kids trying out for an 18-person roster.
And that's one of my concerns. And what does that say to a child? And then I've even heard of cases where a child is so far off maybe the pace, like Sarah was alluding to, that they've been released. And it's like, well, we'll take 15, but not them. And it's regardless of the age. And this is part of the culture that, you know, I supported with Mini-Stars, and certainly Skill Centers wants to replicate, is that if you put a child into an environment, they're going to grow. And if you take a higher level player, he may grow just a small fraction. You take a player who's coming in at a lower level, their improvement is going to be significant. And so is that the realm of where we should be going with our programs? You know, I know we've got the Alberta Youth Soccer League, and that's supposed to be the same ethos of development. But I'm also hearing that clubs are trying to get good players from other clubs, because they're making it competitive. And believe me, I'm not taking away the competitive element. Every game should be competitive, but then we leave it on the field. We go away, we reframe, and then rebuild for the next game. And that's the development. So again, I think talking to parents, it's being honest about what is the process you're going through and why. Now, it's tough. I think looking back over my career, there's been many a times where the real tough days are those days where, you know, and I do it here at the soccer centre in Calgary, where I call the parents and the children in who I'm being deselected. And sometimes I'm working with these kids for 10-week sessions. and you build a relationship with these children. If you're doing your job properly, you really care for the players, and then you're gonna break off maybe their dreams. So for me, working at the provincial level, I had girls who was coming in. They've been planning to go to BC, and then I'm saying, sorry, I'm taking someone else. They know that that point may come across, but it's never easier. And I'm suggesting some people might find it comfortable. And if they do, then I'm going to ask, do they really fulfill their role as a coach? If they can't manage this deselection in an appropriate manner. So what is the appropriate manner? And before we look at it, I want to talk through some of the common methods of player evaluations, and they're interesting. So one of them is a games-based, and this is the real sort of crude level where we draw the kids in. We put out 4 fields: Arsenal, Barcelona, Chelsea, and Dortmund, and the kids rotate up and down those fields. We tend to believe that they don't understand what's going on, but every single player knows that. And whenever I've done it and a child's been moved down, you've seen the impact on them. They don't play better. They probably play worse. So is it a true reflection? And, even in those models, I've gone in and supported some of the players on, just do this. Can you work on this? Can you help with different aspects of your game? Trying to support them to get them back up on the fields. Now, one thing that I will say here that I've always done when I've done an evaluation is I get the players in before and I tell them explicitly what I'm looking at. And, those who know me, I know John's heard this before, I'll say I'm looking at shoulders and hips. I'm looking for players who make mistakes. I was doing a mental skills presentation yesterday, and it was interesting. I said to the young players, Lionel Messi has probably made more mistakes than any other player in the world at the moment. And that's why he's where he is, because if you don't make those mistakes, you're not going to progress. So in order to have the confidence to do some of the moves that Lionel Messi does, he must have messed up somewhere along the line. And it's a key sort of message to say to some of your players. So when you come to a tryout or an evaluation and you make a mistake, I'm looking to see how you react and not that you're going to make it right. So I try and put the players at ease and to enjoy and have fun. The next one is technical review, skill tests some players do. Now, I've put a name down there, Gary Stempel. I worked with him at Millwall many years ago, and he's now one of the head coaches in Panama. He actually helped Panama get to the World Cup. But at the time, there was a skills test program called FA Soccer Stars, and he ran it. And if you got 6 stars, it meant you were in the top 10% of players in England. And you would be invited into an academy. And I said to Gary, do you bring these kids in? He said, no, we can't bring them in. Just because they can do the techniques really well, can they find a pass? Can they see the player on the other side of the field? Do they do the right things at the right time? So he said, we monitor them. So again, a skill test provides only a small sample of what a player is about. Again, I said there, guest evaluators. I've done this before for some clubs, and it's always interesting. You still get the players playing up to you. I remember one girl, she kept looking at me and watching if I was watching her. And on the first day, I watched her, and I promise you, she was probably the worst player out there. But I said to my assistant, I like her. There was something in her face that said she would. And the next night she came in, she actually did perform. So guest evaluators will put players off as well. They see you stood in a box and there's pressure. The other one is, and I've done this it's an example with the provincial team. We do 10 sessions, and me and my 2 assistants would grade the players after every performance and use that as a sort of help to get the team selection ready for BC. So it's looking at it over a longitudinal process. If you're working with a team on a long-term basis, I worked out in Cochrane as a technical director for a couple of years, and we still used to do tryouts. And I told the people there, the board of directors, I can place the teams now. I knew every player in that community. So, in Red Deer, all the players in the community. John knows them, the coaches know them. They could easily make their selections without going through that process. But it's something that is expected. And I'm like, do we really need to do that? And then the last one is, like I've just said, team coach selection. Really, the baseline should be the comfort. And I've spoken to this many times with parents who come to me and say, what club should I join? And I said, you shouldn't join a club. You should find a team where you and your child feel comfortable, and that's where you belong. We see lots of players trying, like I said at the beginning, when I landed, it blew me away that parents would sign up for 3 or 4 different clubs, knowing that if they messed up one evaluation, they could go to another one. The world has changed, you know. Before we used to go and get a career. Now I'm looking for a boss to work for, and if I get on well with my boss and I can work with him, then I'll do a good job. If I don't, then I'm not going to enjoy my time there. So it's important. Your children should be looking at maybe you selecting the coach you want to work with rather than the coach selecting your child. So I hope some of that makes sense. These are some of the processes that are out there, and sometimes you'll use a mixture of all of these. Attending a tryout, and we always see it, the parents will come along and they're watching the coaches. They don't watch their children. They're watching the coaches. When a coach sees a boy or girl do a Maradona spin and a coach is making a point, they're looking out for that, and they're encouraging their children. If their children make a mistake, they'll berate them. You can't be doing that. The coaches are watching, and it's just more pressure. So some of the things, and I don't know if we've got many parents on here or if you're interacting with your parents, you know, for me, the things I like is when I get there, the parents and players arrive early. The parents are polite and respectful. Wait for coaches to ask questions of all players. I worked with a young girl once who was trying to get into an Ivy League soccer program. And her mum said to her, these are the questions you need to ask your coach. Go and ask these questions. So I sat the player down and said, are you going to ask those questions of the coach? And she looked at me and said, I don't know. What do you think? I said, no, well, what do you think? Do you think you should ask the coach? She said, no. I said, no, I don't think you should. What we want in these environments is the coach to be saying, who's the left back over there for the girls team? And the coaches ask the questions. If you're asking coaches questions as a parent, you're detracting them from their job and making the right selection. Again, applaud and recognize positive play. This is in all aspects of performance, but especially in a high performance environment. I think as parents, we are the role models. If we can show that we're supporting all the players, that's key. I can remember one child who played for a club in England that I worked for. Whenever her son done anything, we just heard her giving critique back, positive or negative. And we never actually saw the player's personality. We saw the parent. So again, let your child shine, not you. Consider body language of parents. You know, we've got it here. There's a goal obviously being scored. What is the body language transmitting not only to the players, but to the coaches? Be respectful when discussing performances. That wasn't a very good pass. You can't, that transmits through all the parents. And, you know, we see the comment quite regularly on social media where someone's berating the referee and then asks the parent, which one's your child? And he says it's the referee. So again, we don't know in this environment. If it's our club, we might know some of the parents, but you never quite know who you're talking to. The last one, enjoy the opportunity to support your child and others doing what they love. And I'm going to steal a story from, you know, my sport as triathlon as well. And someone asked one of the top professional triathletes how they feel about the pressure competing in a race with 10 guys for the winning spot and the winning purse, knowing that they're out there gunning for each other. There's so much pressure. Everyone knows it's just between 10 people for one spot. And I love the answer of this triathlete. And he said, I embrace it. I celebrate that I'm here competing with athletes of this ability. It says that I'm good. Other people will look at it and it might melt them and say, well, if I don't keep up with these, then I won't get a chance. So encourage the children. You're here to enjoy and play with other players of likability, not to beat them, to play with them. So enjoy the experience, knowing that it will lead to other experiences that will go through it, because tryouts aren't going to go away. If we go to university and scholarships, they're there. We're going to be judged and assessed as we go through life. For the players, arrive early. Listen to what instructions the coaches offer. And you guys will know it as coaches and as parents. Quite often you'll tell a child we're going to do a passing drill and they'll already start getting an image of what the drill is. And they'll try and start mimicking what they see it's going to be. Ask them, please listen to the instructions. Play your game and enjoy. Really easy to say. We as coaches can influence that by our body language, our behaviors. if we stood there all stringent, no smiles and making notes, the players aren't going to relax. So again, even in this environment, those who have seen me coach, I like to engage with players, and I will do that in a evaluation. Because I'm engaging with a player, some people think that's a shoo-in that they've been selected. No, it doesn't sway my decision. For players, let your passion show and engage with other players. We've done evaluations before where a parent has said, can her daughter play on a team with her friends? And this is for a provincial team, and we're like, no, we can't do that, because if she's selected, she's going away with 17 different girls to a different province in different rooms. She needs to be part of that environment. So we need to encourage players to stand up. Social aspect is more important than the playing side. I say this all the time as a mental skills coach. I watch players walk into that environment, and I'm watching how they carry themselves from the get-go. Like I've just said, the young girl on the first day, she wasn't very good, but there was something about her that made me think that she had it. We just had to get it out of her. Be respectful and assist wherever needed. Again, and in terms of questions, don't ask too many questions, but be polite. As coaches, you know, some of you are coaches, you'll see the players who are shining, the players who really want to make a difference. So the players need to consider that. Now, once selections are made, methods of communicating those decisions. And the one thing I'll say is, when I make my selections, I make them with my heart and my head. And there's some tough ones. I'll tell you now, on my last provincial team, I had 2 sets of twins, and I split both pairs. Not because I wanted to be mean, it's what my heart said. And I'll explain the process and the feedback I got when I'd done that in a moment. So everyone sees this as slightly different. Some people might do an email alone. For me, not good. People may do an email and then follow up with a call. So give them the information and then follow up, or in-person meeting. I have offered in-person meetings before, and some players decline those. They don't want that feedback. They've not made the squad. That's all they need to know. So another one is a phone call and then a meeting. And still, a phone call, I think, is a tough one. Living in a province like Alberta, where you're calling people over the south of Alberta, is tricky, but it's direct. And the blessing is that you're still hiding. I like, when I do this, I personally like face-to-face conversations, because they can see the body language. And this is the in-person one I offer. I like it because they can see how emotional I get about releasing a player that I've worked with. So in regards to the player release meeting, we're going to impact someone's dream. And this is the feedback I've had many times. You've just broken someone's dream. That was all they've been thinking about. And it's important to remind them it's not their dream. Their dream was to go there, but it's not the end of their dream. I worked with a guy called Steve Norris with a hockey team once. And the parents were watching their players skate instead of listening to him talking about long-term player development and me on the mental skills. And he said, please don't watch the children. That's just a snapshot of where they are now and not where they're going to be. And so I always try and remind, this is just a here and now. And, you know, we can all relate to this coming through COVID, you know, and going back on our own careers. It is just a snapshot. It is not our make or break. And many players will come through this adverse situation strongly. So when a player comes in, my first comment, so how often we do the feedback meetings is player will come in with their parents, if possible, and they'll sit down with me and an assistant coach. And I remember the last set, I had one girl come in with a whiteboard with a big list of questions ready to go at me. And so they sit down and I sit there with them and I welcome. And then this is something I've just adopted the last couple of years. And I asked the girl straight away, are you any good? Now, indifferently, no one's going to say no, because they're coming into a confrontational situation with, why did you cut me and take her? Why did you? And so I ask them if they're any good. And they normally say, yeah, I'm good. And I said, good, because you are. And then we go into, why did I not make that selection? Why are you not going? And then I go into the feedback, and that can be personal, but it's important to recognize the self-worth and the coach's agreement. Now, I also say at this point, 1 or 2 of these meetings, the parents have come in ready to attack me on the situation, and 1 or 2 of the girls have appeased the parents, and the children have been more grown up about it than the actual parents, because the children can control what's going to happen beyond this. The parents can't, but they've got to recognize that you've made a decision for the team and not just for their child. So the feedback, rationale behind the selection, and these are some of the rationale I give. 1, the first thing I say is, they say, I'm not in the top 18 players in the south of Alberta, for example. And I'll say, no, that's not the contention. The consideration here is I can only take 2 fullbacks at the right side. 2 fullbacks possibly overall out of 18. And so I've chosen 2 different ones for you in this occasion. It's you're outside the top 2 girls playing fullback in the southern Alberta. That's not to say you're no good. That's to say that's how tough the competition is. The competition and development. There might be occasions, I have taken some underage players and that's been challenged. And both the girls who I'm thinking of now have gone on, progressed very, very strongly and justified that selection. But you might need to consider when you're doing the selections, the competition and the development opportunities in there. And I'll come in here and I'll say this, I've just read Lionel Messi's book, and it's fantastic. If you take the time and read it, his father followed him from Argentina to Barcelona. And when he was at Barcelona, he would play in his development for 2 youth teams and the reserve teams, all interchangeably. The youth team would be needing an extra player, and they wanted Lionel Messi to go along and help them win. And I smiled when I read it, because I'm thinking, what did his dad actually think when his son was being put into a younger age group? What did he say to Barcelona? Now it's Barcelona, but he probably said, let him get on with it. And Barcelona probably thinking Lionel Messi playing on a younger team gives him a chance to be a leader, maybe against peers his own size, but they let him go. They let him play for the teams, and he didn't turn out too bad. Yet we've seen it, those who are at clubs have seen it, where a child might be playing tier 1 and suddenly put on tier 3, and there's a phone call from the parents saying, why did you cut my child? I'm going to speak to my lawyer. We're taking away his opportunities. We don't. So why does that happen? And does anyone say, you know, we want to move you back to this squad because we think it's going to help you develop quicker to get back into the top squad? And I think that justification, that communication sometimes needs to come across, and it gets lost when we do evaluations, especially with guest coaches. You know, a parent asks for feedback and they've got a big list of numbers where guest coaches may have evaluated that player. So the communication of feedback is really, really important. If you do move a player down a squad, why? How can they get back? It's that personal contact and feedback. The one thing I'll say to players whenever I do an evaluation of deselection is I never close the door in anything I do in my life. I try and leave doors open. You don't know when you're going to step back through that opportunity. And that's what players need to do. And I ask them always to come back and prove me wrong. Now, one of the young girls was really bold. She came into my last evaluations and she said, have I seen Bohemian Rhapsody? And I smiled. I said, yeah. She said, I'm going to be the girl that comes back and says that you're the player, you're the coach who let me go, like the manager of Queen. And I smiled, Riley, and I said, I really hope you can do that. And I really hope you can. And she is, she's climbing back. So please challenge the players when they come through this deselection opportunity. We all have 2 options, you know, and I've said it, you know, you go and find another sport, or you come back and you prove that you're worthy. And quite often when I've done this, because I do a 2-year cycle, I'm looking for that reaction from a girl to come back and compete. And quite often they've done that, and I've taken them and they've really gone on and shone. So you've got to show them that light, that there is a way back. The other opportunities, you know, you'll give training objectives. I don't like to give too many. I was out with a player a little while ago, and after a coaching session, he said to me, what can I work on? And I'm just play with passion and for the thrill of playing. And if players are playing, they're developing. They don't need to be told just work on your left foot. Because another story that I'll give now is, if I coached when I first started coaching, David Beckham would have been a young boy in Southeast London. If I'd coached David Beckham as a young coach, seeing a young boy use only his right foot, I probably as a coach would have said, David, you need to work on your left foot. And I could have changed his career. He could have probably still been a good professional, but maybe ended up at Accrington Stanley. Because he mastered his right foot and made that so strong, he went on to play for Real Madrid and a couple of other teams. I forget the one in England now. But he's had a great career because he focused on his strengths. So we need to think about that. And that's why I'm saying err on the side of caution. Sometimes we give too much information and don't allow children just to go and find that real passion to come back and play stronger. If there is a glaring weakness that's maybe let them down, then we can work on that. You know, it might even be the mental courage to overcome a setback. And that's something I will express in that introduction to a tryout. If you make a mistake, please don't go around blaming everyone else. Take responsibility for your actions as well. Okay, they're being released. It's not a judgment of them as an individual. It's not a judgment of parents. Parents sometimes see it as a reflection on them. I liken the scenario where they've been telling their friends that their child is training with Alberta Soccer, with your tier 1 team, and suddenly you've made decisions to release them. It is not a judge of that child as an individual or the parents as good parents. It is, again, a brief snapshot about where the team is traveling and where you see them best fitting within the club. The picture will change. Again, I was saying there, young players' bodies and minds will grow and change, and they will. And I've seen, you know, you've seen it. Again, myself, my son, we were small in stature when we were young, but our bodies change. And I'll say again, when you talk to players, and I was talking to a group yesterday, so many coaches will give the lie, and this is the biggest lie that I've ever heard in soccer. Sorry, son, we're going to have to release you. You're too small. Diego Maradona, Lionel Messi, David Batty, Billy Bremner. If you don't know them, you need to find out who they are. They're all small players. So I think we need to consider, if we're going to release someone, be honest in the feedback. Don't be blaming excuse like size. And skills can improve with hard work. That's the environment of the sport that we're in. Like I say, I've often asked players to prove me wrong, and they've come back and many times proved me wrong in doing so. And I really, truly embrace that, and I love and welcome that. So as a coach, you've got to do that. I think if you don't want to be proved wrong and you never go see that play again, you're not doing it again. You're doing a disservice to your job. Now then, again, a little bit more on that conversation. Be honest. I tell the players what I'm looking for, and I tell the coaches what we're looking for. In all discussions, provide honest feedback. I'm going to tell you a story where I tried to deselect, I did deselect a goalkeeper, and she was slightly heavier goalkeeper, and her movement wasn't so good. And I was doing a deselection meeting with her and her dad, and I'm talking to them, and I said, she's not talking enough and her distribution needs work. This was a good few years ago, and the dad knew that I wasn't being honest. And he said, no, she does that. She does that as good as any of the other goalkeepers you've got. She does that. And in the end, I caved in. I said, okay, I'll be honest. She doesn't have the physical literacy for a goalkeeper to be playing at this level. And he looked at me, and during the conversation, he told me that he was a physical education teacher. So he's working with her at school as her teacher as well. He said, thank you. That is all she needs to hear. She just needs you to be honest. And I don't know where her career's gone since, but that is what they wanted. They wanted me to give the honest answer. So as parents, as coaches, we know when we're not giving those honest answers. So please, in that feedback, be honest. Express again, these are my views. Recognize that others may not accept them. In that situation, he may have said, yes, she might be slightly heavier, but she's very athletic and she can still perform those tasks that you want. So again, we're not going to come to the same consensus, but I need to be bold enough to know that I'm making that decision. Always involve the parents for younger players if they're not available. So when I have done tournaments and I give individual player feedback, I quite often do it with a parent if they're there. And if not, it's great technology now. I get my live support machine, my phone out, and we record my meeting with the player. I ask the player if they got any questions, and then they can take that home and give that to the parents. Because I can remember giving feedback to, again, a girl in Calgary, and when she went back and told the feedback to her mum phoned me up and said, look, I just want to check, John, because I got the feedback from my daughter, and she said that you should never play soccer again, and that she should just be playing in a field. And I was aghast, and the mum knew me quite well. I knew that I probably wouldn't have said that. What I'd actually told the child was, you know, you need to play more. You need to get out in the field, not just do the scheduled stuff, but go and play and enjoy soccer. So please, you know, get a parent involved, get someone with you, and make sure you record any contentious decisions that you may need to be making. So this is my preferred option. Some people may not agree with it. I liken it to Simon Cowell, and I've done it for many years. So I might be working with a squad of, say, 25 players, and I'm taking 18. I will call a list of the 18 players without the players knowing, and I'll send them away with my assistant. My assistant will be standing to one side and say to the players, well done, congratulations, you've made the team, go home. No further conversation at that moment. They are thrilled, they're on the team, they want to be on the team, they want to go and celebrate with their mums, their friends, and hugs. The other players I'll take to a room and I'll sit down and I'll do it as a group. So if I've got 7 players and parents, I'll bring them in and I'll sit down and I'll do the Simon Cowell. Sorry, I've got to make a decision. You know that, and you know you're coming in and it's not the right decision for you. And I'll be honest, I've cried at these meetings because there's girls I'm releasing and I don't like it, and the parents have seen that it's not an easy decision. I'll give them a little bit of feedback on how their decision was made, and then I'll ask them to please go, think about it, and set up a meeting with me within 2 days, and then they can come in for individual feedback. Now, this is what I was saying earlier with one of the twins. They didn't want the feedback, but I got the dad phone me, and I know him quite well, and he said, you know, I just want to say thank you for how you handled it, how you took the time to take the girls to the side and explain it. They didn't need to know, the girls didn't want to know any more than they wasn't in the squad. They sort of knew a little bit why, because I'd already spoken to them before. I need to see more flair, I need to see more risk taking. But I sat them down there. Now, the reason why I do it also in a group is it also protects you and the parents as well. Emotions are really high if a player is not selected. So if you've got a group there, you're not going to get a parent, and I've seen this when we've done it individually in England, where a parent says, this is personal. You just don't like us. This is all personal. And it refrains the behaviors there and then. It allows parents some time to go away and rethink what's going to happen, prepare to come in with questions for a meeting. And I try and get that meeting really, really quickly. Now, some people say that's not fair to take a group in together. I think even for the players, when I've done it, they then know that they're not alone. It's not them, the world against them. There's a small group, and there are other girls in that same position who are going to go through the same turmoil. So, like I say, the successful girls go off. I do Simon Cowell, but hopefully with a little bit more heart than Simon Cowell. And I explain the decisions. I wish them well. I promise that I'll still be out the next season watching them. There's opportunities back in. It does not mean that they're a bad player. I also offer, if they want to speak to their coaches and coaches to call me and get some feedback from a provincial level, that's what we'll do. So that's how. Has anyone got any feedback or any questions on how or why I do that? No? Again, in that meeting, I'm saying there, KISS, keep it short and simple. No more than 5-10 minutes. Everyone just wants to get the answer. They don't want to go into too much detail there, and then anyone who does, it's this emotional outpour. So I try and delay that. Again, in that meeting, I'll do the rationale for the deselection. this is not time, like I say, time for discussions. Always keep it general, not personal. Even when I come into those parent debriefs, quite often a parent will try and compare and contrast. Well, Jenny's better than Amy, so why did you pick her instead of my daughter? And I can't go into those conversations with them. I said, I've made a selection. We're talking about your daughter. I'm not going to compare and contrast. And that's got to be respected by the parents. If they don't, I just leave the conversation and say, well, I've made the decision. I'm sorry. I can't be swaying it. Again, I have offered Zoom meetings, especially nowadays. Obviously, we're all on Zoom or in social media platforms now. I've had to support players living as far away as Lethbridge, so it's tricky for them. I don't want parents coming in, especially during terrible weather conditions, just for a meeting on me on why the player's being deselected. So Zoom is fantastic, better than the phone, because then again you see that visual representation of the coach and their behaviours towards that deselection. So has anyone got any questions on? I just want some other suggestions on how you guys do it to open out for discussion for other members who may pick up the webinar. So Sarah, how do you actually talk to players when they go? Do you return players to community, and how's that received?
It's not always received nicely, and it's sort of up to, like, every coach is allowed to handle that in their own way. So I know some coaches do exactly what you sort of alluded to not doing, and they send an email to players.
Yeah.
I like to make a phone call. We don't usually have the opportunity to have one-on-one meetings, but I've been taking some notes, and I'm going to try to figure out a way to build that in. I really like that idea, even for the younger players, to know that, if you work hard, you can come back and try again next season and show me I was wrong this time.
Yeah. So we got to, again, it's always keeping those doors open, especially for parents to see that as well, because they're the ones I think sometimes are hurt much more than the players, because they feel it, and that's what I mean. They feel it reflects their behavior, their parenting, and it doesn't. Martin, have you got any ideas? Again, I see you was over in Nova Scotia.
Hi, John. Yeah, well, I can definitely share how we done things at the mini level or grassroots level up to U12, and then we had a little bit different approach going to the youth. But just to continue on what you guys were discussing for the youth levels, for example, what we did was, it was a process of looking to the future. So basically during the season, we were providing 2 or 3 feedback or assessment, if you will, to the players to prepare them for the next step. So we're giving them a little bit of recommendation where we as a coaches who work with them on a weekly basis, to let them know where we see them, where they are, providing them opportunity to assess themselves where they are, and when they're going to the next level or next age group, they kind of like knew where their position is within the system of the players and teams and levels. Yeah. So before we open the registration, we kind of like said, all right, this is the recommendation where we think you as a player should go, either if it's tier 1 or tier 2 or tier 3, for these reasons, based on the feedback throughout the season. And then we open up a registration, and we allowed all the players basically to let us know what is their desired level of playing. And we gathered the information before the start of the season, and I, as a technical leader who basically knew most of the players, sit down with the coaches who are working with the players the whole season. Because when you look at the tryouts, our problem with tryouts was, how much more will I see within 2 or 3 hours working with the players than you as a coaches saw throughout the whole season or multiple seasons working with them on a daily basis, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
And then we made a decision based on, the assessments and the feedback from the coaches and myself as the technical leaders, how we're going to place the players. So it was a little bit kind of like, longer detailed process which prepared the players for the decision we made, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the questions that I got for you and anyone else is, so that's a great process, and it's similar to how we've done it in the high performance programs, the academies back home, where we give some feedback throughout the season, and then if we make that decision and we've got information to support it. So again, what do people do if a player comes in from another community, maybe, you know, moves to Canada? How are they brought into a team? Do they do a tryout and come along to see where they fit? Because again, I know, opposed to in Europe where the season is 8 or 9 months, even for youth soccer, here you've got 2 seasons, you've got to register and then you're put onto a team, and they're those closed rosters. How do you guys embrace and welcome in a new player into the community?
Yeah. In general, we basically, I know it might be a little shocking for Alberta, but we got rid of tryouts. In my club, I got rid of tryouts at all levels and all ages. So if there was a player who was either coming from different club, different district, different province, instead of tryouts, we gave them trials. So we allowed them to be with the team in the environment for several weeks, let's say 1, 2, maybe 3 weeks, based on the needs of the coaches to evaluate when the player is becoming comfortable in that new environment, you know, if it's a good fit for them, if it's a good fit for the team, and etc. And if not, we just, you know, might have recommended them to go to lower level if they weren't fitting to the one they desired, or we just released them to a different club where they could actually find the environment they needed for their best development.
So I love that, and it's sort of like, say, the European model that I grew up on. As anyone here in Alberta, can anyone see any issues with that, or how could that work here? And I know one of the big issues is the closed rosters. That's obviously an issue that we've got going on with the skill centers, the Canada Soccer Skill Centers. I think it's going to change that pattern. Anyone got any thoughts on the way that Martin's done it?
So I like the idea. We also have like we're given geographical limitations. So players can't necessarily go to a different club if their needs aren't being met where they're at. So we have a few restrictions that way as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I know Jason DeVos talks of this, and he feels there should be no boundaries. You know, children should have that right to that freedom to choose where they wish to play, which would be interesting and intriguing because it would raise the standards of everyone in the program. Now, the obvious, we've got it in Calgary where certain clubs pull more players, but I like the fact that it also lifts the bar at the other clubs. Has anyone else got any other feedback or any suggestions? John?
Yeah, we've tried that where when we know somebody's moving into the area, we can give them a couple of week trial. Some of the places we have trouble is that people will move into the area and then word of mouth will be, well, tryouts are August 28th or whatever the date is. And we never even heard of the kid until that day. So communication and getting that word out is an issue.
It's an intriguing one because I know, again, on another trial that we held, there was a very, very good boy who was playing, obviously trying out for Alberta provincial team, and he was away when the first week of the tryouts were on. He came back for the second one and he made the team. Now the parents who'd done all the tryout were upset that he made the team opposed to their child. Yeah, if I'm a club and Lionel Messi comes in, do I take him because he didn't come to all the tryout, or do I take him because he's good enough to be at that level? And again, that information needs to be transferred to all to make it really transparent on why you made that decision. And the boy in question, most of the provincial coaches had seen him developing within his club in Calgary. So again, it's that clarity for the parents. It's not fair. Well, it's not based just on this 2 weekends of tryouts. It's based on, this decision is based on the prior knowledge that we have of this player. And it's just, I think that's what I keep saying. We've got to be really honest with our parents and our other everyone, the coaches and the players. And the thing that irks me is that biggest lie is the player's too small. No, Lionel Messi's not too small. In terms of the take-home notes I've got up here, be true in selections and feedback. And sometimes they cost you, you know, and I don't know if Claire wants to share her experience, But sometimes following your heart, it really does cost you, but you sleep easier at night. We've all heard stories where certain players are selected because their mum and dad might be able to support the program financially better than someone else's. I can't make those calls. I've got to take the players that I honestly feel. So when I give that feedback, I can look to the parent and the child in the eye and tell them the truth. Like I say, with the goalkeeper, I couldn't. In the end, he forced my hand, and I'm really pleased I went through that experience with him. Players, recognize it's a snapshot. 2 options following deselection. And the cream always rises. And I'll show you some examples of players who didn't make it. There's been many throughout the years. You know, we can talk about Michael Jordan forever. For the parents, it's not personal. It only becomes personal when they make it personal. So again, I like it. Tell your children you love them unconditionally. Well done for going out there and having a go at that. What did you get from it? How can you build? You know, and the parents are going to realize it's not their choice. They can't be the squeaky wheel, and they shouldn't be the squeaky wheel that really forces that issue on how to get a child into a game. We really want our children. I look back on my parenthood. My youngest is 19. I just want them playing now and enjoying the sport at the level that they feel comfortable at with their friends. Comeback kids. There's some prominent names there. Harry Kane started out at Arsenal, got released. But Rashford, Man City. Wood Hullet actually had a tryout at Arsenal. They let him go. Jamie Vardy, some of you will see, has come through. And he went into non-league soccer for a long, long time before he came back into the pro game. Yet someone along the line at Sheffield Wednesday said exactly that same lie. Jamie, you're not good enough. You're not fast enough. You're not big enough. And he actually come back and earned his stripes at winning the Premiership with Leicester City. So, you know, we've got to be really conscious. And people say, how can you define potential in a young player? You know, everyone looks back on hindsight and says, yeah, I coached Lionel Messi. I actually coached Owen Hargreaves when he was 5, and I saw he had potential. I've seen so many kids with potential who don't quite make it as well. So there's many, many bits that are going to go toward making that player. Final word. Another's opinion is not a reflection of your player's potential. Again, which one made it? Which one would you bank on making it? I'm not so sure on either of them. But yeah, Lionel Messi has gone on. Hopefully he's going to join Leeds United this year and to play with Marcelo Bielsa, because he's had enough at Barcelona. That's my dream for him anyway, and for my team. So has anyone got any questions or feedback on this conversation regarding how we deal with players and parents and this whole process of selecting and deselecting players, not cutting?
I would say, John, and you mentioned it many times, it's important to communicate it properly, and as a club or as an organization to be very straightforward with your values. What is your mission? What is your vision? What are your values? And just stick to them. So if you come to really hard decision making, you know, you can always come back to what has been advertised to, you know, to your members or to the people interested to join your programs based on the values you're respecting. And that really helped me on the way, you know, with changing the landscape on the grassroots and basically approaching the skill centers in Nova Scotia. If it's going to be done the same way here in Alberta, I can definitely say that majority of coaches and leaders, they will have to definitely rethink their values and their habits, because it's a definitely different world and different approach than we might be used to.
Yeah.
So for me, it was really important to know who we are, what we do, and what are our values.
I love that, because I remember speaking to John O'Sullivan from Changing the Game Project, and he said exactly the same thing about working. He changed the culture of a club down in Illinois, which was really struggling. And he said, define your 4 values, make every conversation linked back to those 4 values. And everyone bought into it, parents, players, coaches, on the 4 values. And so if one of them is inclusion and you exclude a player because maybe race, culture, economic background, your values and your standing is gone. If it's inclusion, then everyone should be included and given that same opportunity. Has anyone else got any other comments? I know I'm conscious we're coming near the end. I've got a little prompt come up there from Claire. Like I say, thank you for joining me today. I hope it's given you some ideas and insights into what's coming as well from Alberta soccer. You know, we've got the provincial license coming in, and it's going to be looking at some of this deselection and inclusion. We've got the Alberta Youth Soccer League coming, the skills centres, that's all to come. And so, although we're in COVID and we're caught in a sort of no man's land at the moment, be conscious of that. You know, I thank Claire and Matt again for their support, and I know we've got one more webinar next week, and then we're going to have a little break before we get back in. I think indoor soccer's we're hoping something will happen for October, whether it will be in cohorts or big team, I'm not sure. But let's hope we can keep battling through this and get out, enjoy the sun and some coaching with your players. All right, so thank you everyone for joining us. And please look at the webinars. If you've got any questions in Grassroots, then just send me an email. It'll be great to catch up with you. All right.
Thank you very much, John.
Thank you.